You've seen a man caught in a contradiction before. You've never seen one caught in his own voice, his own face, his own words, 22 years apart, side by side, on a screen 40 feet wide, with nowhere in the room to look that wasn't one version of him or the other. Nobody in the building that night knew what was inside the second drive Kimmel's producer carried through the stage door at 4:47 p.m. Not the floor crew, not the network's legal team, who would have had questions, not Trump's advance team, who had reviewed the segment rundown and seen nothing that alarmed them. The drive contained 17 minutes of footage. Kimmel used 4 minutes and 9 seconds of it. The 4 minutes and 9 seconds were sufficient. The year is 2002. The studio is smaller. The cameras are older. The light has the particular warmth of an era before LED technology flattened everything. Trump sits in a chair across from an interviewer whose name most people have forgotten, wearing a suit that fits differently than his suits fit now. Tighter in the shoulders, less deliberate, the suit of a man who has not yet decided that every garment is a performance. He is relaxed. He is speaking without a filter, which is to say he is speaking the way a man speaks when he does not yet believe the microphone is a weapon. The year is tonight. The studio is Studio 54 at the Ed Sullivan Theater, and the light is the cool, precise light of a program that has been on the air long enough to know exactly what it wants to show and exactly how bright it needs to be to show it. Trump sits across from Jimmy Kimmel in a chair that he settles into the way a flag is planted, decisively, with the full intention of claiming the territory beneath it. His jacket is perfect. His tie is perfect. His confidence is the specific, performative confidence of a man who has decided in advance that this room belongs to him. Kimmel is already seated. He has been seated for 6 minutes. He watches Trump cross the stage with the quiet attention of a man who has been preparing for this particular conversation for considerably longer than 6 minutes. Trump spreads wide in the chair, adjusts his cuffs. His eyes go to the audience first, a sweep, assessing, calibrating, and then to Kimmel, where they land with the flat, practiced certainty of a man taking possession of eye contact. "Jimmy," he says. The single word is an entire posture. "You look like you've been practicing for this." Kimmel smiles. It is a smile that contains information it is not yet releasing. "I have been," he says, and he lets the smile hold just long enough for it to mean something. "But before we start, I want to show you something." The screen behind them does not come on immediately. There is a pause. 3 seconds, 4. And in that pause, the air in the studio changes in a way that is difficult to describe but impossible to miss. The band has been silent since Trump sat. A camera operator near the stage right position shifts her weight from one foot to the other and then goes completely still, as if stillness is a form of witness. The stage manager is standing with his clipboard flat against his side rather than raised, the way a person holds something when they've forgotten they're holding it. Then the screen illuminates. 2 frames, side by side, equal size. On the left, the 2002 footage, warm light, younger face, the particular looseness of a man speaking off the record even when he is on it. On the right, Trump, live, in this chair, in this room, tonight. The 2002 Trump begins to speak. His voice fills the studio. Thinner than it is now, slightly less constructed, but immediately recognizable in the way that voices are always recognizable across decades because the architecture of a voice is laid down early and remains. He is speaking about immigration. The words are specific, the position is specific, the language is unambiguous. The 2026 Trump on the right side of the screen is watching the 2002 Trump on the left side of the screen. The room holds its breath. 22 years is a long time, long enough for cities to rebuild, for children to grow up, for industries to vanish and new ones to emerge in their places. It is not, it turns out, long enough for a recording to forget what it captured. The 2002 footage does not age. It does not soften or reframe or apply hindsight. It simply exists, present tense in the way that all recordings are present tense, always happening, always now, waiting only for a screen large enough to show them. The 2002 Trump finishes the clip, 13 seconds of unambiguous position on a policy that the 2026 Trump has built his entire second term around dismantling. Kimmel does not say anything, not immediately. He lets the screen hold. The 2 frames remain, the archive and the present, the infrastructure of a man's public self across 2 decades, visible simultaneously for the first time. A woman in the 5th row has her hand pressed flat against her sternum, not dramatically, just the instinctive gesture of a person whose breathing has changed without her deciding to change it. A man 2 rows behind her is leaning forward, elbows on knees, eyes on the screen, in the posture of someone who has stopped pretending to be casual. "That's the infrastructure," Kimmel says. The word lands strangely. Clinical, architectural, not the vocabulary of entertainment at all. That's what was built, in public, on camera, recorded and archived. He pauses. I just put both pieces in the same room. Trump's jaw tightens 1 degree. His hands, which were open and loose on the desk, close slowly into a position that is not a fist, but is no longer relaxed. His eyes stay on the screen for a half-second longer than they should, and in that half-second, something passes across his face that is not quite recognition, because recognition would require surprise, and Trump is not surprised by his own words, but something closer to the particular expression of a man who has always known the recording existed and has always assumed he would never be in the same room with it. That was taken out of context, he says. Kimmel reaches under the desk. The folder is thin, 6 pages, not a binder, not a stack. Kimmel places it on the desk the way someone places something they have carried a long time and are finally setting down. He opens it to the first page without ceremony. It is a transcript, the 2002 interview, verbatim, with the relevant passage marked in a single clean underline. No annotation, no commentary, just the words themselves in the specific, irreducible clarity of text that has been extracted from audio that has been verified and sourced and cannot be misheard. Full transcript, Kimmel says. Uncut footage available to any network that requests it. He turns to page 2. It is a second transcript, a 2026 press conference, 6 weeks ago. The same subject, the exact opposite position, the language so precisely inverted that reading the 2 passages consecutively produces the particular cognitive dissonance of watching a building occupy the same space as the empty lot it replaced. Trump's breathing is different now, still controlled, still managed, but the rhythm of it has changed in the way that a room's temperature changes. You don't see it happen, you simply realize at some point that the room is different than it was. His posture has not collapsed, but it has reorganized. The expansive spread that claimed the chair has subtly contracted. His shoulders are a fraction of an inch closer to each other than they were when he sat down. Context matters, he says. You don't understand the full picture. Page 3, Kimmel says. He turns the page. It is a timeline. 12 public statements on the same subject, dated and sourced, tracing a position across 22 years in one direction and then a single sharp reversal in another. Not a gradual evolution, not a reasoned reconsideration, but a reversal as clean and complete as a door swinging shut. The timeline does not editorialize. It simply shows the geometry of a man's stated positions across time, and the geometry is not complicated. Then a door at the side of the stage opens. She is a broadcast archivist, not a journalist, not a political figure, but a woman whose professional life has been the cataloging and authentication of recorded media for 21 years. She worked for 3 networks before becoming independent. She carries a hard drive. She sits in the chair to Kimmel's left and speaks with the brisk precision of someone who has been asked to do a job and intends to do it efficiently. I was given access to 23 hours of footage from 12 separate broadcast archives spanning 1998 to 2025, she says, without preamble. My job was authentication, verifying that no footage had been altered, edited for misleading effect, or taken from a context that changes its meaning. She places the hard drive on the desk. Everything shown tonight is unaltered. Every clip is full context. The 2002 interview is 94 minutes long. The clip used tonight represents 13 contiguous seconds from the 31-minute mark. The 30 seconds before it and the 30 seconds after it do not change its meaning. She looks at Trump directly. I wrote that finding before I knew what show this was for. Trump stares at the hard drive. His eyes stay on it for 3 full seconds before moving. His jaw is working in the small, rhythmic, involuntary motion of sustained pressure, not chewing, not biting, just the particular movement of a jaw that is carrying more than it was designed to carry quietly. You're all working together, he says. His voice has lost the confident frequency it carried when he walked in. It is flatter now, more effortful. The words arriving like furniture being moved, heavy, functional, without grace. The archivist looks at him with the expression of someone who has been paid to be accurate, not to be persuaded. I was hired through a third-party media authentication firm, she says. I signed a standard professional agreement. I don't know Mr. Kimmel. I don't watch this program. She pauses. I authenticate footage. The footage authenticated itself. A man in the third row covers his mouth with one hand and looks at the floor. He stays like that for several seconds. When he looks up, his eyes are not at Trump, not at Kimmel, but at the screen, still displaying the 2 frames, the archive and the present. The The infrastructure that was built in public and has not, it turns out, gone anywhere. Then a second person walks from backstage. He is a former senior communications aide, not named tonight, introduced only by title and years of service, who spent 4 years inside the apparatus that produced the positions now on the screen. He sits. His hands are folded in his lap. His voice, when he speaks, has the controlled steadiness of someone who has rehearsed this, not for performance, but for accuracy, the way you rehearse a deposition. Position changes happen in politics, he says. I understand that. I worked inside enough of them to know how the language gets managed, how the framing gets adjusted, how the transition from one stated position to another gets constructed so that it doesn't look like a contradiction. He unfolds his hands, refolds them. What I'm looking at on that screen is not a managed transition. There is no scaffolding around it, no bridge language, no policy evolution memo, no prepared framing for the reversal. He looks at Trump. There is a 2002 position and a 2026 position, and nothing between them except a political calculation that was never explained to the public. Trump's head turns toward him. His eyes narrow fractionally. You signed an NDA, he says. I did, the aide says. It covered internal communications, strategy sessions, and proprietary campaign materials. He reaches into his jacket pocket, produces a folded legal document, 2 pages, dense text, highlighted in 3 places. My attorneys reviewed it last week. Public statements on matters of public record are not covered. I checked. His voice does not waver, but his throat works once before he continues. A single, involuntary swallow, the body acknowledging the weight of what the voice is about to carry. I stayed quiet for 3 years because I was afraid of what speaking would cost me. But I was more afraid of what it meant if the infrastructure on that screen was never named for what it is. One person begins to clap, front row, left side, hands coming together slowly. Not the quick, reflexive applause of entertainment, but the deliberate, weighted sound of recognition. Another pair of hands joins, then another, spreading through the audience in waves, unhurried, the way truth spreads when it finally has a room large enough to hold it. Kimmel does not look at the audience. He looks at the screen, the 2 frames, still there, the infrastructure still standing on both sides of the divide it created. Trump opens his mouth, closes it. His hands are on the desk edge now, knuckles at the first level of white. His breathing is fully audible, not ragged, not collapsing, but the breathing of a man whose body is working hard at something his face is trying not to show. The sweat at his hairline is fine, present, illuminated by the studio lights that were set to show everything. His eyes move in the tight loop. Screen, Kimmel, aide, transcript, screen, and find no position that offers relief. This is a political assassination, he says. 4 words, flat, airless, the bravado stripped out of them by the weight of what the screen is still showing behind his head. Kimmel looks at him. His voice drops, not louder, lower. That's the infrastructure, he says for the second time. The word carries everything it didn't carry the first time. All 11 pages of the transcript, all 22 years of the archive, all 94 minutes of footage sitting on a hard drive on a desk in a television studio. You built it, in public. I just put a light on it. Trump looks at the screen, at the 2 versions of himself, equal size, equal light, 22 years apart, saying opposite things with equal confidence. He says nothing. The clip of the dual screen moment, 2 Trumps, same subject, opposite positions, running simultaneously, spreads faster than anything the show has produced in 11 years. Within 22 minutes, it has been downloaded, mirrored, and re-uploaded to 14 separate platforms. News networks run it in split screen with their own archival footage, adding a 3rd frame, a 4th. The word infrastructure, Kimmel's twice-used anchor, becomes the label on hundreds of posts that begin compiling their own timelines of public position reversals. Trump's response arrives at 1:09 a.m. Total fake news setup. The clip was edited and out of context. Kimmel has been trying to destroy me for years. The post is placed automatically beside the archivist's statement. Unaltered, full context, authenticated before she knew what show it was for. And the juxtaposition requires no caption. The denial and the authentication exist in the same frame. Everyone looking at both. Everyone doing the math. The backstage footage shows Trump leaving through the East Corridor without speaking to anyone on the production staff. He moves, a camera operator later said, like a man who has just realized the building he has been walking through for years has windows, and that people outside have been able to see in the entire time. The aide sits in his backstage chair for 4 minutes after the taping ends, not moving. The archivist powers down her drive and places it in her bag with the careful deliberateness of someone handling something that has just become historically significant. The two-frame image is still circulating months later. The archive, the present, the infrastructure that was built across 2 decades in public, believing the past and the present would never be in the same room at the same time. They are. The room is still open. Some things don't need to be argued. They just need to be placed next to each other, in equal light, on a screen large enough for everyone to see. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next archive is already pulled.